Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right. I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea. It's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys.
Yay!
We are so happy to be back.
Finally, we're back with season 3.
Yes, we have a special season for you guys. We're kind of changing our format like we always do.
Always keeping it different, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta keep it fresh, keep you interested. So this season we are pretty much discussing the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, we're going to try to keep it all the paranormal, weird oddities of the Pacific Northwest so we can kind of dive deeper into our own backyard and kind of branch out a little bit with Washington and Oregon as well, so we don't get too stale on Oregon. But
yes.
It's just something that I feel like I'm kind of passionate about. It's something we could hopefully have day trips on and do all the things we've been talking about doing and just kind of refresh the vibes a little bit for us both. So
right.
We're
and
excited.
Get out of the house. And
yeah.
Get our feet on the ground and actually investigating instead of investigating from my seat right
from
here.
The internet.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can accomplish right now, but
yeah.
We have like a shared week off coming up, so we have at least one day trip coming up that we're excited to go do tomorrow.
Yes, very excited.
Yeah, so it's been a good little break that we had, and
yes.
Thanks to all of our patrons. If you guys haven't checked it out, we do after shows sometimes over there. We're going to try to start doing tarot card readings and some video content over on our Patreon as well. So we're just in the works of always growing and remodeling, I'd say.
Yes, so make sure to check the links because we do have links for those. It's only $5 a month, and right now, I mean, even during our break, we were putting out 2 episodes a month, and I think that may be exactly what we keep doing, 2 to 3 episodes a month. So
yeah, now that we've got some new equipment, we'll see what we can cook up for you guys, and we are definitely interested in doing content that keeps you guys interested. We love hearing what kind of weird stuff you guys are into, so like give us some ideas. I'm always asking for ideas. If you know anything in the Pacific Northwest that we need to look at, whether it's cryptids, a UFO phenomenon, weird paranormal hotspots, let us know. That way we can kind of go look at it and get some inspiration.
yes, we're thirsty for research.
We are. I feel like for me, what kind of kicked this whole idea off was thrifting, as I like to do, and I found this book, Weird Oregon, and I guess Wendy was familiar with the series, and
yes.
I snagged it up because I was just like, open it up, and I immediately saw stuff that I grew up going to, like weird tourist stuff, like the prehistoric park. I don't know if you've ever been there, but there's like this park in Oregon where it's just like giant dinosaur statues in the woods.
Oh yeah, that's not that far from here.
No,
Yeah.
I have really weird nostalgia for like old tourist attractions and roadside attractions and stuff like that because my parents would take me when I was little. And of course, Enchanted Forest is in there, and then I kept flipping through, and there were UFOs, there were cryptids, there were all these cool local legends, and so I was like, I need this book, and then I immediately was like, Wendy, what do you think about Pacific Northwest or Oregon? Like, just, focusing in on that, because I could have a lot of fun just learning what's going on around me.
Yeah, and when she told me I did this kind of old school dance, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in.
For sure. So I'm really happy it's springtime. It's finally not so freezing.
Yeah, like I immediately, because I'm not going to lie, I got some really bad depression. It was either COVID or the fact that we had moved or my daughter moving out. It was like a conglomeration of all these different things.
Changes.
Yeah, changes. And I just went into this deep depression, and I tell you that as soon as the sun came out, I was like, I feel like the sun is just sucking up my depression right now. This is the best. The best.
Seriously, all of us Pacific Northwesterners need to take some vitamin D.
Yeah. I was like, I already take astronomical amounts, but...
Right? The physical sun will beat that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, though. I'm glad you're feeling better. Me too. I'm just happier that it's not so freezing. It's not so dark outside.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really nice.
It is lovely.
Like, it's 60 degrees, and we're like, oh my god, let's go outside.
I'm like, the other night standing out on the patio, and I'm like, I see the moon.
Yeah.
Nature, my friend.
Dude, speaking of seeing things up in the sky, I didn't do deep research or anything, but as I was looking up stuff for our upcoming episode today, I saw some weird stuff going on in Hawaii.
Okay.
I think this was 2 months ago, so it's nothing too new. So at this point,
by the time this comes to you guys, it'll be
it'll
later.
be 3 months old.
Yeah.
4 months old. I think so maybe January 2021 in Hawaii, there was this weird blue light up in the sky.
Okay.
And people actually got it on camera, and it just looked kind of almost like a little worm. It was a little, almost like a C shape of a blue light, and it was moving as well and traveling, and people were just looking up and getting it on their cell phones, and no one can figure out what it is yet.
They didn't think it was part of some sort of SpaceX thing, or...
I don't even know what they thought it was, because of course they just go straight to UFO tonight at 11, it was that kind of footage that I was watching. So
gosh.
Local news networks, and they're just they don't know what it is.
That's crazy cool.
Yeah.
I know, I feel a lot of stuff is going on in regards to aliens and UFOs and that kind of thing. Disclosure, we're in the midst of this big giant disclosure.
That's right.
All of it is being released to us, all the things that the government has researched and all of these other things. So I know I've gone down a couple of rabbit holes, which we've talked about on Patreon, about how CIA and FBI files are now being shared. I guess it's not FBI, it's CIA, but they're being shared. And I got trapped reading some of those because they are fairly interesting to me. To think that some of it, they honestly don't know what it was.
Right. Yeah. And it seems as always, this stuff doesn't make headlines anymore. It's typically under the radar, and you'll see more about politics or COVID or a stimulus check or this or that before you're going to see major news networks having, bigger articles on the details. They'll just be hey, disclosure's coming, but then that's it.
Yeah, when it's really happening, we're in the midst of this great disclosure. So
yeah.
It's out there, and it's been out there. Because I started getting downloaded information from the CIA files last year when I was looking at remote viewing, and then it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. I get into that Stargate stuff and just eat it all up.
Yeah, which is cool because then you can spit it out for me.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And plus, all the things that are happening right now, with the new rover on Mars and them potentially being able to find
life or
the presence
microbes.
Of, which I swear that they had already found before. So I'm didn't they find that? But when I went to go look up articles, I couldn't find anything. I was I swear I had read that they had found microorganisms, and then I was oh man.
Other timeline.
Yeah.
That was the Mandela effect.
No, I was thinking, man, my brain sucks. Or did I see that in the future?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Who knows?
Deja vu. What timeline am I in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fun to look at UFO stuff because it's something I only know a little bit about, and I always am really quick to just believe alien. I don't know.
Right.
It's always my number one go-to before I think government.
Right. But there's so much out there that we don't know. The government is, this is a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know what's going on because this is for national security. This is for, the prevention of people attacking us, and so they say. So.
Right. It's are they just covering up the fact that they don't know, and they don't want us to know that they don't know?
Right. Right. But in some of that research, I know that I had found that some people, even as early as the 1940s, were testing aircraft out there that we would consider to be a UFO.
Wasn't even Hitler technically making some sort of flying saucer, or is this one of those weird rumors?
It's true.
It's true?
Yeah. I think we mentioned it last season.
Okay.
It's the Nazi bell. Maybe we'll have to do something on it eventually, but this time it's Pacific Northwest, so...
Right.
But definitely that will go on my list of things to research.
Yeah, all the shenanigans that he was into, because he definitely had... something going on with the paranormal.
Yeah, I think he wanted to learn how to time travel. There are a lot of things that he wanted to do, which a horrible man to have all these fascinating things inside of his mind.
Right.
Just this horrible dude. Like,
maybe it was a draw to power. Who knows? I don't really look into him ever really deeply. So I don't know much.
I recoil at his name. Like, ooh.
You should not be named.
Yeah. It's just like Crowley.
Oh, I know.
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, I feel like people always put him on a pedestal of being like, oh, he summoned Loch Ness, he did this, he's this great wizard. And I think that there were things he did, like he did kind of bring magic to mainstream, which was kind of cool, and try to get more people involved in the occult is kind of cool.
Right.
But then when you examine at the details of how he did it, he was
creepy.
pretty disgusting.
Yeah, he was a little creepy.
It's funny that you bring him up. I had literally just listened to like the last podcast on the left. They did a 3-parter series on him. Again, because I guess they did a series like 10 years ago where they re-examined him. And some of the details that I found out of his rituals were just like gag me out. They would involve like bestiality, murdering pets, lots and lots of sex, and even there's probably a formal word for this, but eating shit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
well, to each his own, I suppose.
Right. I think it's kind of funny because it stemmed from hating mainstream religion and just wanting to be the other and wanting to gross people out. So it's almost just like, I will do the opposite of what people say we should do.
Right.
And I guess I can kind of get that as a witch sometimes.
Sure.
And just being like so anti-Bible that I'll be like, yes, Lucifer's the way to go. Eat the apple.
Right.
Do not be a sheep. But he took it too far.
Like, he deconditioned the Christian mind in the wrong way.
Yeah, just going a little too... It's too extreme either way.
Yeah.
So let's find the middle road.
Yeah.
Oh, Crowley.
I can just see this being a comedy. Like, oh, Crowley, not again.
Are you eating shit again?
Stop masturbating in the wine.
Seriously. Just everywhere. Oh, man. We'll definitely need to do profiles on different wizards who are not Crowley. I feel like there's a lot of magical influences that I haven't looked at.
Yeah, same. There's a lot of amazing people in this world, and this world of magic and paranormal. There's so many great things out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you had any paranormal experiences lately that you haven't told me about?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know there's been tons, but you guys will have to go over to Patreon for those. So I have definitely had some fun experiences on our break. Very interesting. I'm trying to think. I did have something last night. So as we're recording this, it's my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. It's my big birthday. So, last night my family had got me a Switch for my birthday, and I was playing some game last night, and everybody else had gone to bed, and I was just sitting on the couch, and then all of a sudden I just felt like this energy come into the room, and I was like, I'm in this new transition in my life where I feel like me and the paranormal are kind of on the same plane of existence. Like, I'm accepting this now. Like, I'm trying not to be afraid of it. So if we live on the same plane of existence, then I'm more open to have these things happen. And so I felt the energy just rush into the room, and then I could kind of hear all this static. And I had my headphones on, so I was like, okay, take my headphones off and listen to the space. And I could just hear almost kind of chattering as if our ancestors were here wishing me a happy birthday. That's what I felt like. I felt my grandfather's energy, and I felt my aunt's energy, and I was just like, and people who had passed. I even felt my best friend, and I was just like, felt so much love and at peace, and they weren't here very long for me. It seemed like seconds, but for them it was probably forever.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Or maybe it was a minute long that this happened, or 2 minutes, but it was like I could just feel it, and then, they all said they loved me and left, and it was just like a rush of energy and a rush of release, and it was very beautiful and very touching.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you're able to recognize not only like it's good energy, but maybe some familiar energy. and not to just ignore it, because you could have just like been like whatever and kept those headphones in.
Yeah, or like, I'm playing video games. I don't have time for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think so many of us are too tuned
Oh,
into
yeah.
our phones or to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of crazy stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
if you just take a moment to acknowledge what's around you, like the vibes, you might notice something, and not just to fear it. Like, I know before we started recording, we were talking about how common it is for just fear to be your number one reaction
Right.
to that stuff, but, you know, it's not always negative if you're feeling energy.
Right. Like,
I don't know.
That's kind of the thing, too, is that while we were on break, I was working on my fears, like, really addressing what it is that I'm afraid of. And I think that's really helped me a lot to be like, oh, I'm not really afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling. And, yeah, I'm not really afraid of the dark. It's what I might see that's in the dark that I might be afraid of. Or...
the unknown.
Yeah, it's that unknown.
Right.
Or I'm not... There was something else... Oh, I'm not afraid of water. I'm afraid of drowning. Like, I am deathly afraid of drowning because I feel that potentially may have happened to me, or I don't know. I've had some things happen in my life as a child that I'm digging. And so I think that I may have had something happen where I almost drowned.
There was something negative in the water.
Yeah. Like, I do remember playing with some kids in a lake and them pushing me down.
Oh.
And so I have these flitting memories of that traumatic event that happened. And so I'm trying to deal with that.
In this lifetime?
In this life.
Okay.
Yeah, in this life.
Interesting. I've like almost drowned twice, and I only kind of remember falling in the second time.
Okay.
But both times my brother was there to save me, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's also very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like very athletic and always there as a young kid. So like both times he just went in right away, and one of them was at the Oregon coast, one of them was Silver Creek Falls.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just lucky he was there, but yeah, I don't know why I don't really remember him. I just remember kind of falling because we were walking on those little rocks, you know, that collect all like little sticky sea anemone things.
Yeah.
And then I fell in. And like nowadays, thinking about that, like, you probably wouldn't let kids just go run around on rocks without parents. But like,
No.
90s, man, you didn't really follow your kids around everywhere.
Yeah. That was the same. Like, I think I was with a bunch of kids that, like, I was at a daycare, and this was in the 80s. So we were at a lake, and there were probably 12 kids and one adult to watch all of us.
They're outnumbered.
Yeah.
12 to 1.
So I think for me, you know, mortified of water.
Interesting. I think I've always thought about being in like an open ocean, and again, it goes to me this fear of lack of control. That's my biggest fear. Everything that I'm afraid of is always because of control.
Gotcha. Which makes sense. That's kind of how I feel like our family, our generational family is like that.
That's our generational trauma, maybe.
Yeah. Is this need to control everything, because all of us cousins are like that in a way.
Yeah. It's not something that really came to light until, I don't know, maybe when I lost control of everything and I realized how important that was for me. And I was just like, oh, you have to go with the flow. So I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I get a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, like, sometimes you come across, like, seniors, and they are the most chill demographic sometimes, where it's just like, I'm not in any rush, take your time, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Like, you lose a lot of that anger, that aggression, and that control, and like things that probably would have triggered them in their 20s or 30s no longer are relevant.
Right. As I'm aging, I'm finding that out too. Like, I'm just like, oh, I burnt something on the stove. Recook it.
Yeah.
Whereas I would have freaked out 10 years ago.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So someday we'll be super calm and chill.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Also, backpedaling to the fact that you got a Switch, I just have to say I'm so excited for that.
I'm really excited too. Got all these games coming, so good times, good
Hell
times. Yeah.
It'll be exciting when we can do all the things, all the Stardew, all the Animal Crossing, and further have distractions from doing podcast.
I just think I've got enough hours in the day now, which is really strange because I'm working more hours at my job, but I feel like I'm able to manage my time a little bit easier, and Man, I didn't know that time management had anything to do with my happiness, but it fucking does.
I'm really good at wasting time. Like, especially with a screen. Like, I could just go home and play a game or watch TV and then just get stuck. That's my problem.
Yeah. Well, before we moved, I was trying out this thing where I would try to set my future self up for positivity instead of failure, because there's a lot of times where I'm like a huge procrastinator, and that procrastination sets my future self up for failure. Mm-hmm. So, like, I could do this task right now and get it over with, or I could save it for later and then have to be stressing about it. So now I'm just taking things as they come, and that's really helped me be able to put my time into all the things that I love.
Yeah, go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's always what I would hear, like, just the beginning of learning about more new agey spiritual way of life. It's always like Bruce Lee says, you got to be like water, you know, go with the flow, be malleable, because the more resistant you are, the harder it is. Right. And so even with just my job lately, instead of resisting, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to take the opportunities that come my way and not block myself. And so I'm just trying to continue that mindset a lot and just don't block myself from opportunities and change.
Right.
Let it come.
But it's fucking hard because we have these things ingrained in us from a young age. I feel like that we have to break that barrier. So once you can break that barrier, it's like,
yeah, like you don't really go with the flow. I don't know, going to school every day, having that rigid schedule for so long, and being told, like, this is your religious outlook, this is what you do with your time, this is how you think, this is good, this is bad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a part where people say, yeah, kids are more malleable to situations, which is totally true. I don't know what age it is where we just become set in our ways, but
I feel like future generations are going to be better, because I feel like the kids nowadays, like, I see my kids, they're in a total different mindset than I was at their age. Mm-hmm. They're more advanced. They've moved past a lot of things. And I see other kids like that, too, in their age range. And I'm just like, okay, so is it because we've let go so much as parents?
I wonder if it's the internet, too,
maybe. Because
they have communities now online, and they can learn from each other in such quick ways. So, I don't know, I do feel like when I talk to my brothers sometimes who are teens, that they know a lot more than I did, and I'm just like, well, they're on the fucking computer all day. They know things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was still on dial-up probably at their age, playing Sims 2.
I'm like, we didn't even have internet then. It was still just a huge concept. It was not what it is today.
Yeah. So they can find their little groups and their subcultures and that kind of stuff. I think that helps.
Yeah.
To form a community.
Yeah.
So all these tangents, I don't know, should we get into today's topic?
Get into our real thing. Here we are talking about all these things that have nothing to do with podcasts.
Seriously. So
thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, if you've made it this far, I'm sure you read the title. Today I really wanted to talk about the McMinnville UFO sighting.
Wow.
So I found this in my Weird Oregon book, and McMinnville's a place I've been a couple times. I think it's kind of got this paranormal vibe to it. So when I found out it had this long-standing UFO thing, I was kind of into that. I think you kind of pointed out to me, because you had shown me that there's that UFO festival every year. And it claims to be like the second biggest UFO festival in the States. I guess Roswell would be the biggest. And so McMinnville is number 2. And so I just wanted to look into it and be like, well, why? What was the event? What caused this all?
Yeah. Do you mind if I say that where McMinnville is?
Yeah.
So McMinnville is just outside of Salem. So we are in Salem, Oregon, which is the capital of Oregon, for those of you who don't know, because you may be from somewhere else in the world and you don't know this stuff.
You might think it's Portland.
Yeah.
It's not.
Misconception. Salem is the capital of Oregon, and McMinnville is probably about 12 to 15 miles northeast of us.
Like a 40-minute hour drive away?
Yeah.
Small little town. Lots of old little buildings, lots of farms.
Yes, a very beautiful little town too. It's very kind of chill. So every year they do have that festival, and it is an amazing festival. So I've heard, and I've always wanted to go, but only seen pictures from friends who have gone. So
yeah, last year I think we wanted to They canceled it because of COVID.
Yeah.
This year, they're like, we are doing it despite COVID. I feel like that's 2021. It's like, we're all just like, fuck it, we're doing it despite COVID.
Right. But they did push it out. So now this year, it's in September. So anybody who wants to go, September, I think
3rd through the 25th.
Yeah, 23rd through the 25th.
We're going to try to go if we can get off work. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll see you there.
Yes.
So I'm going to take us back to some time traveling. The
Woo.
event is going to be in the 1950s. So I know we've talked about that before. There's a lot of UFO sightings in the 50s and the 40s. So this is McMinnville, Oregon, May 11th, 1950. And this UFO was spotted on a family farm flying above. And it's actually 9 miles west of McMinnville, so I don't know why do they call it, why they say it was in McMinnville if it was 9 miles out. I guess it's just so close.
That's how it was for Roswell, too. Like, they say the crash happened in Roswell, but it was actually outside in a place called Corona.
Right? Okay, so I didn't get the name of where this 9 miles location is, but I kind of want to find it, see if we can go over there and just drive around sometime.
I think we could figure it out based on pictures.
Hopefully.
Because we are from here.
Right, we're gonna find the location, and it was a later time of the day, so about 7:30 p.m. And Paul and Evelyn Trent is the name of the couple who witnessed this UFO. And Evelyn was outside; she's just kind of feeding her chickens. I think she had some sheep and some other little animals out there, so she's doing her daily chores. And then she looks up and she noticed a metallic disc-shaped aircraft hovering in the northeast sky. It was silver and bronze colored. It had a tapered shape, so kind of like that classic UFO that we always see like in cartoons and stuff. Like a flat little bottom and then like a little antenna poke at the top of the dome.
Sort of like a pie tin.
Exactly.
Upside down. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so she's calling for Paul, who was inside at the time, and she's like, tells him to like grab the camera. This little detail has been debated on whether she told him to grab the camera right away and he came out with it, or he came out, went back in, looked for it. Like, they try to figure out like how long it was in the sky. Some people say that he ran around in the house, looked for the camera, couldn't find it, and then Evelyn found it in their car. And because of the fact that there's some arguments on that detail, people try to say it's fake because they can't remember where they grabbed the camera. I don't know why they would worry so much on that detail when we have a photo and that's what we should really be looking at.
Right.
So, just a heads up, some people will tell you that story a little bit differently. But so he comes out, he sees the saucer moving slowly, it's going westward, and he snaps a photo, and he's able to actually catch it on film, which I don't know what kind of camera he was using, but it was an old school camera, I can imagine.
Sure.
Not very fast.
Yeah.
And the Trents assumed it was like some sort of top secret military or like an experimental aircraft. And they had this feeling like we shouldn't even probably have this photo. Like, this is probably going to get us in trouble. I don't really even know if we should tell people about this. And they didn't like rush to develop the film. You know, back then we're not having immediate cameras, photos instant like we do now with our cell phones. So the camera just kind of sat there for another month. I think Mother's Day went by. They had like a picnic, took some more family photos, and then eventually filled up the roll to get it developed. And Paul, he told his friend, Frank Wortman, and he was like the town banker, and he was like super into this story. Like, maybe he was into the UFOs or just into this paranormal, like one of our type of people.
Yeah.
And so he was like, wait a minute, let me see this photo. And he actually convinced Paul to give him a photo, to give him the photo, and he hung it in his bank window. So like the town, if you were walking by, could see this photo of this saucer.
That's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. And so like I bet people who'd be curious would be like, hey, what's this? And by word of mouth, this story kind of like is traveling from here to there in McMinnville, just starting super small. And Paul was not like trying to keep the photo. He was just kind of like wanted nothing to do with it. And this leads down to a reporter, Bill Powell, to seeing the photo hanging in the bank, and he's like, what's going on here? I want to interview the Trents. I want to get their story. This is incredible. What's going on? So Paul and Evelyn, they agreed to like talk to the local newspaper, and then the reporter asked if he could have the negative, and they gave him the negative, and he took that, and he posted it on their little local newspaper. It's called the Telephone Register, and it was published on June 8th, 1950. You can see like little articles, I'm sure, hanging up in Hotel Oregon, where the McMinnville UFO convention kind of thing is going every year. They have like reprints of that.
That's
there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then from there, it really spread all over America. Like, everyone kind of started hearing about the UFO, everyone saw the picture, and you could, like, order the telephone register, I think, by calling in or mailing in, and so they had to reprint that specific article 3 times over, and they were selling all over the United States, even over to Canada. It just kept, like, selling out,
That's
and
so
people
cool.
wanted it, and I was like, that's so cool. So that kept spreading. It even spread to where it was published on the cover of Life magazine.
Right.
So in the 50s, that's a pretty big deal. It was the #1 magazine at the time. You know, we obviously pre-internet. This is how people are getting their information, and it was like a renowned, magazine. So it's on the cover of Life, and McMinnville gets this nickname as Saucerville, which just to me sounds so cute.
Right.
Saucerville. So that is awesome. I'm like, I need to only refer to McMinnville now as Saucerville.
I think it was on the news too.
Most likely, yeah. I'm sure it was on the radio. I bet it was on the news. That's actually right. There was a Trent interview that they did on, I don't remember the name of the program, but they did do an actual live air interview. So even though, despite the fact that they thought, hey, this could get us in trouble with the military, they got all this unwanted attention. They didn't get profit from it. They didn't get money for giving people the negatives. They didn't make any money off of the Life magazine. So I think that's kind of worth noting here. But they still decided to go and tell their story because enough people were curious, and they're figuring, well, maybe if we do this TV interview that's like a one and done, we'll get our story out, people will leave us alone. So they never made any money off of this. And it kind of went on in infamy, and of course you're going to always have your naysayers who are like, that's not real, that's not real. People would try to debunk the photo even to this day. It's just kind of like, I'm forgetting the names right now, but the famous Bigfoot photo.
The Gimlin
footage? Patterson-Gimlin footage, where we have a Bigfoot female walking on film, and it's not enough evidence for people that they're going to tell you it's a man in a suit.
Right.
When you try to replicate that, a man in a suit cannot replicate it, but you'll always hear people tell us it's been debunked when it hasn't.
Right.
This is the same with this photo. People will try to say it's been debunked. They'll say it looks like it's just like a headlight or some sort of engine hanging on a telephone wire and hanging there. And so they actually had people who did a test to try to like hang an object on a telephone wire, see what that would look like, and see what the shadows would cast at that time of day. Couldn't be replicated. Couldn't be debunked. To this day, this photo's never been debunked.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool.
It is.
And it's been investigated multiple times over throughout the years. So I have a little bit of information on the different investigations. So the main official investigation was done by the U.S. government and the Air Force and the FBI. And, oh, sorry, got a text message. And they all looked into the story. They all looked into what the Trents were saying, and they said it kind of all held up as true. And Evelyn would complain, though, about how she felt like these government people who were coming into her life were kind of overbearing and a little bit threatening in their demeanor. So I'm wondering why that is, if the government was, like, thinking she was involved in some sort of conspiracy,
or if they thought she was faking it.
Yeah, like, why would they be so rude to her about it? So she didn't really enjoy these interviews at all.
I mean, the time period, she was a woman. Just even talking to a woman sometimes in that time period was not great.
What if they're like, we need to speak to your husband about this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Probably. And then the film negatives were apparently lost for some time. Some say it's because the Air Force came and like confiscated them. Other people will say it's actually because when she gave them to the reporter that they got lost in this whole like press world for a long time and could never find them again. But they did end up getting resurfaced at some point in time. And then the Air Force UFO investigation team was called Project Grudge at this time, I guess in the 50s. It later became and replaced to Project Sign. And then that became Project Blue Book in 1952. And so in the 1960s, Project Blue Book was taking like a lot of criticism from politicians and from scientists, and they all were like saying, look, your research is kind of rushed, it's not very accurate, and we feel like it's careless and it's just full of cover-ups. And so the Project Blue Book was getting a lot of shit, it sounded like, from people. And so one of the things they decided to do was to hand over all of their evidence to a different party to investigate and kind of clarify. That way they're like, look, it's not us saying these things, someone else is looking at it, and here's like a non-biased opinion. Originally they were like, let's just cancel Project Blue Book, but they were afraid that would look like really shady and people would just build all these conspiracies about the UFO phenomena even more, and they were trying their best to clear it up. So they sent all their cases to be examined by physicist Edward Condon to clear all the conspiracy theories up, and he actually formed a university-based study known as the Condon Committee. And they took all of the Blue Book files, Project Blue Book files, they examined them, and this is in 1966, and this is when they finally found the missing negatives. So I guess the Air Force, they did have them, Project Blue Book had them. I am so sorry. I am getting photos now. Let me turn my phone off. And so they found the negatives, and they started investigating them in the study to see what they could look at, if it looked like the photos had been doctored or changed or altered, messed with in any way, shape, or form. And then they decided, no, these look like the most authentic piece of like evidence you have in all of your files of a flying saucer. And the story, it all lines up. And so they just felt like this was one of the few cases that they found that they could not debunk, and was the strongest one out of all of them. And so to this day, you know, UFOologists and enthusiasts are saying, no, like this Trent family photo is like the strongest photo we have to this date. I don't think anyone's specifically saying alien, though. I guess, you know, UFO, again, is just unidentified flying object. That's as far as they're willing to say.
So it could be anything.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really think it's military, and I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I could always Google it real quick.
I have seen the photos of it. Funny story, I actually... I'm all kind of a funny story. I remember watching in the 80s when I was young, them doing an interview with the Trents and showing the photos on TV.
I tried to find interviews on YouTube, but I could not find anything. That's amazing. So what do you remember?
I remember them showing the photos, and I was like, why is there an antenna on top? And to me that seemed very strange even then. And seems even stranger to me now. Like, it makes me think of a drone now. But
more human-made.
Yeah, more human-made. But who knows? You know, we don't know.
Yeah.
This is in the time, 1950s. I'm like, I'd have to go back and look at more stories from the 1950s and see all over the United States what UFOs were looking like at that time.
Yeah. I think this is after the Mount Rainier incident, which was technically the first UFO sighting that we have in the U.S.
Yeah, that was huge. That was a huge one, and it was before Roswell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is still pretty early, and I don't think that we had the language that we do now about, like, grays and flying saucers and all that stuff.
Right. I can see that they talked about the study. I do remember them talking. I mean, I was young. I was probably 10 when they aired this on TV, and it might have been some sort of I was wondering if it was some sort of anniversary of something, but anyways, they were talking to him. They talked about the different experiments that had been done to try to disprove it, and they showed the video, they showed the pictures. And they interviewed the dude, Mr. Trent, and he seemed very genuine, but also kind of like he's talked about it a million times and he's getting tired of it.
Most likely, yeah, because like he's over it. He's like, I took the damn photo, shut my wife up, and now all you people are bugging me about it. I'm sure he's a lot nicer than that, but yeah, it's got to be frustrating because you're just probably being called a fraud, a trickster, being accused of falsifying all this information, and even with a photo, it's not enough evidence to convince people. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up the Trent UFO photo on my phone really quick. But yeah, I think that it sounds like a genuine experience to me. Whether I think aliens, I'm not too sure, but that's always my favorite thing to think. Like, let's think aliens.
Right. But I know even during that time period, they had drones in the military. And I do have to say that Oregon, we have a very large military presence here in Oregon. And they do test other types of ships here. So I know that in the 2000s, like somewhere between 2000 and 2010, maybe even 11, they tested the TR-3B, that triangle-shaped ship here in Oregon.
Wow. And
I saw it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
it's not out of the realm of possibility that it's
right.
just human-made.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a pretty good high resolution of a zoom in. So you're really on with that whole upside-down pie tin thing, and then just a little antenna.
That was something that people said quite often, was that they thought, well, they could do it if they took a pie tin, tipped it upside down, and then put it on a string, like this elaborate thing. People tried to hoax it. In the testing that they did, they tried to hoax it so poorly. And they weren't anything alike, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, so we still haven't disproven it despite what people want to say. It would be great if you could zoom in a little bit more and just see if there was like a freaking gray alien driving in there.
I mean, did they say how big it was? To me, it always seemed like it was so small.
It does look really small because that was a zoomed in one. So if I look at just a regular zoomed out photo, look how tiny that is compared to the building next to it.
Yeah, so the photo that we're looking at here, you can see it kind of flying over the mountain and underneath power lines.
That's what people
between
thought.
power poles. Yeah.
You're hanging off power lines.
So there were people saying, oh, what if somebody was playing frisbee with a pie tin, which they actually did back then. But I'm trying to imagine a pie tin that had an antenna on top of it.
Yeah.
Nope, that'd be very difficult to make a pie.
I don't, and honestly, yes, it's a small object, but let's say that was a pie tin, it would be so much smaller in the photo and might not even show up. You know what I mean? Like, it does look like it's a faraway object.
Right. But the thing is, like, we don't know what any of these unidentified craft are, no matter what, until somebody proves it exactly. Like, somebody can say in the sky, oh, I saw something flying by, like that blue thing that you were talking about in Hawaii at the beginning. Oh, I saw this. Well, it's unidentified forever until somebody says this is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's just unidentified forever. Could it be a drone that they were testing? Sure. A small little drone that somebody was testing? Maybe. Could it be an alien drone from another planet? Maybe. Who knows? I like that idea. I like the idea that they're sending these little drones here.
That'd be cool if it is just an alien drone. And what would they be really seeing?
Like, let's see what these people are up to in the stupid Americas.
Yeah, they're just flying over the farmlands, just kind of spying over there.
I'm looking for some cows to mutilate.
Seriously, because I wonder if there was any cattle mutilation.
I mean, that would be something to double check.
Yeah.
Because I know cattle mutilation's been huge in Oregon ever since I was a child. I've been hearing about it. It's like when we heard about it when I was young, they said that it had to do with satanic rituals.
Of course.
Which is not correct.
I know, because, like, how can you have a cow? They usually don't have any blood left in them, right?
Correct, yeah. It's almost like they've been exsanguinated, where it's come out, and, but without having these giant rips and gashes, they would not be taking that care if they were using it as satanic ritual. It would be, you would see the knife blade go up, and
most people
would use it all of the cow. They wouldn't just use.
Yeah, the blood would be part of the sacrifice. The blood would be part of the ritual. Like, from what we know,
and the organs would be part of the ritual. Yeah, everything would be part of the ritual if this were satanic purposes.
You would just gash the throat, most likely.
Yes.
Let it bleed out. This makes it sound like we're up to shit. No. Not that I would know.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm just guessing that they would probably use the majority of the cow. They wouldn't be going to such elaborate things to just take some blood out. Yeah,
cattle mutilation is definitely grody and sad, but it's super interesting because I think that's another phenomenon that's been unexplained.
Right.
You can't quite figure out how they're getting so cut up so precisely, because aren't some of them like chopped up so perfectly, like in cubes and weird things like that?
I haven't seen that. Everything that I have seen has basically been the cow looks inflated but without anything inside of it.
Oh,
like it looks like a cow until you touch it, and then it deflates, and then it's just this, like the skin of the cow with nothing inside.
Thankfully they don't find humans like that.
I know, right?
Right? I wonder if that's because the aliens can kind of see that we treat cows like shit, and they're like, oh, they won't mind if we take a few cows.
Well, I know that there is natural phenomenon that can cause that as well.
Okay.
I read, when I was researching cattle mutilations last year, I think, or maybe the year before, we had some cattle mutilations here in Oregon. It's when you were still living in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, what are these articles? And so they were talking about in there that there are diseases that animals can get that will make the blood completely disappear because there are these little, like, tiny microorganisms that suck the blood out, and then they leave the cow.
Dang.
So there is something natural, a disease that naturally can suck all the blood out of the cow, but they always leave residue behind because you've got to imagine with these little organisms, they poop too.
Okay, so you could find evidence.
Yes, yeah.
And they were not finding
right.
evidence. Okay.
They were not finding evidence of that. And so they know to test for that kind of stuff now when they're looking at these cattle mutilations.
Gross and interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I do want to know more.
I know. I'm not a science person, but I'm just like, these things poop.
Right.
Just like everything.
So we'll have to put that on our list of things to track down. Cattle mutilations.
Yeah, make a little map. You'll see me. I'll be like Charlie in here with a map, like from, what was it?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's our kind of project goal. We're going to try and turn a corkboard into a map of the Pacific Northwest with all these pins.
Yes.
And I was thinking it'd be fun to, like, color cord the pins to phenomenon. So, I don't know,
Yes.
red is for cattle mutilation.
Blood.
Green is for UFOs.
Yes, good.
Yeah, and I did kind of want to look more into McMinnville to see if we'd have recent studies of UFO phenomenon, but I hadn't had time to look into that. But I think that, like, it does look like it's such a wide open space with all the farmland surrounding it that you would have a chance to see the clear open sky at night.
One thing that I can say about McMinnville is that it is also a haunted town, so there are a lot of places that are haunted, and that's what we see a lot of times in this kind of phenomenon, is like we'll see it all mixed together. Like it's all coming from something, right? So we'll see the UFO, we see a Bigfoot sighting, we see ghosts, it's all in orbs, and hear voices and all sorts of things. It's all kind of connected.
Right, like
Is
the
what it feels
paranormal
like.
is pulling each other towards it.
Yeah.
It's like a hotbed of activity.
And then you're just like, oh shit, it's on a ley line.
Oh my god, yes. We
Right?
never did get our ley line map.
No. I've sort of been kind of legit working on one, but it's very low key and not all put together yet. It's so scattered.
Yeah, like I talk about how I want to do a map, but then I don't really want to be super accurate. Like I'll just put like a pin in McMinnville, but I'm like, that's not really accurate. Because you could go super detailed.
Yeah.
Because you could do a pin for like the haunted McMinnville there, and then a pin for this, but then that's just like so clustered. So
right.
Really.
And then you're like, oh no, there's a hellmouth underneath.
Yeah, exactly. We need to find all of the Oregon hellmouths.
Yeah. You did a really good job at putting this together.
Oh, thank you.
I really loved all that. It's very accurate from what I remember.
Yeah, it seems like it's a small incident that just snowballed. Like,
Right.
it wasn't a long contactee, it wasn't an abductee situation like we had with, what was that other case from the 50s? I forgot their name right now. I'm just forgetting
Betty and Barney?
Yeah, Betty and Barney Hill. So it's a much smaller case, but it's cool that it's like a photo evidence. That's kind of what drew me to it.
One thing I would really like to look up is to see if there were other incidences during that time in Oregon, because I seem to recall them talking about that wasn't the only event.
I kept reading like Mount Rainier was the predecessor, so I was like, okay, put a pin in that.
Yeah, which I sort of remember about that one just a little bit, reading some of the gory details.
Gory?
There was something that happened along that UFO thing where a dog died.
Oh. I'll take cattle mutilation, but I will not
I know, I was
dog
like,
mutilation.
no, forget it.
Yeah. That sucks, because that's a common theme with Bigfoot and aliens, is that sometimes dogs do not fare well.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Is it because they're so aggressive and territorial, they're going to blow their cover?
I don't know. Maybe they see, I mean, animals see sometimes what a human can't see because...
Their instincts and stuff.
Yeah. And they see things in a different wave than we do because they don't have all of the things that come along with this human brain.
Yeah.
So.
Like doubt and skepticism.
Yeah. And ego.
Ego.
Don't forget that bitch back there.
Right. So, what else do you remember?
About
Mount Rainier?
Mount Rainier. So what I remember, just briefly, maybe this will be the story that I go into, so maybe I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, okay. We could always link back to it later.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about this one later.
Okay, I'll give you some chance to refresh and then come back and tell us what you know, because I'm curious to see where did this phenomena start in the U.S.
Right, because I believe that Mount Rainier has a slew of things throughout the years, like starting, I think, from the 20s further.
So they're supposed to say that, like, mountains are definitely paranormal hotbeds, because after talking about, was it Shasta?
Mm-hmm. Shasta was huge.
Shasta had all these UFOs, they had all these Bigfoot sightings, they had weird orbs in the sky, weird lights in the sky, constantly eyewitnesses.
Right. Crater Lake.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, Mount Hood. That's something that we'll probably talk about. Mount Hood is going to be a big deal for us.
I know we have Bigfoot, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Lots of Bigfoot here.
Yes.
Lots of McKenzie River Bigfoot.
McKenzie River Bigfoot?
Yeah.
What's that one all about?
I mean, I'd have to do more research.
Okay.
I just know that there's something that happens down along there. And I have heard a lot of, like, local stories, like from chat boards and stuff that talk about seeing a Bigfoot in the McKenzie River area.
Nice. Awesome. One of our favorite topics, aliens and Bigfoots and ghosts.
And ghosts.
So there'll be plenty of that this season, and any other kind of odd phenomenon, of course.
Yes.
So I like hearing about just like local history too. I want to see if we can find any kind of witchcraft stuff going on.
Yeah, I know there's this cool thing up in Portland, like in the middle of a park.
The witch castle?
Yes, there's a witch castle up there that I've wanted to go to.
I almost asked you if you wanted to go there tomorrow because we're trying to make it a thing, but I was like, we need to go to this witch castle.
Yeah.
But then I was reading that it might be turned into a restroom or like a park station now. Like, I'm not really sure if it's just an abandoned building or not, but anyone in Portland, please let us know. What's going on with Witch Castle?
Yeah.
What is the legend there?
Right.
I really feel like it's just kind of got stretched over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever I look in Witch, Oregon, because I'm constantly like trying to find weird local legends, that Witch Castle.
Always
whenever I look up
yeah.
Haunted Pacific Northwest, Witch Castle.
Yeah.
So that's a big one that like people love to talk about. It's probably one of the older structures that we have here.
Right. There's just a lot of good things in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I consider Northern California part of us. My husband, when I told him we were going to research Pacific Northwest, was like, what about Idaho? I was like, I don't know if anything happens there other than ghosts.
I don't know Idaho. He's just like, out of all the states, has he lived there?
No, he was just like,
knows about it?
He was like, I think of Idaho as the Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
so
because
like,
it's right there.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, we'll do Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and he's like, Idaho? I'm like, oh, I forgot about them.
I didn't know that was considered.
I didn't either. I just thought it was, the coastline.
Yeah.
That's all I think about.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we have time for you, Idaho.
I was like, that might be in our next season.
Yeah, we'll just start segueing into each little branch. It's kind of fun to decompartmentalize into like regions sometimes.
Yeah. I apologize. My dog is scratching the door. Like,
I know. Should I let her in?
No, not yet. Let's wait. She can come in for the after show.
She's like, let me in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had on the McMinnville saucer stuff. I think it'll be a lot of fun to try to go there and look for some UFOs.
Yeah, make sure to post some pictures on Instagram of that one when this airs.
Yes, that way you guys can just see.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have a phone, just Google it. But yeah, I'll post some pictures on our Instagram, of course.
So Trent UFO, 1955?
1950. 1950 is what I thought, but maybe I'll double check.
I was like, my dad was born in 1955, so it's real funny. I was like, oh.
It all makes sense. I was thinking about how you told me our grandma used to collect these articles. Yeah, it was 1950. And I was wondering if she ever came across that. She probably had an article, and I wish we had it.
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't know that about our grandma until we started doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a book similar to that in the 90s.
Right?
So it's just like, wait, what is that? The apple doesn't fall too far? Yeah.
That's kind of like a lost thing because, like, I don't know. I personally don't have anyone in my life that actually orders the paper right now.
Right.
It's all online articles. So, like, really, we don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's cute, though. Little scrapbook of all the phenomenon in the area.
Yeah.
I wonder if it goes for any money, like that Lifetime or that Life magazine.
I don't know. My thought is that they have these newspaper articles that you can get online from everywhere in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a fee for that, and they usually specifically for genealogy most of the time. But we could totally.
I was trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I could find really small, blurry pictures, and I can't even read this.
Right. They expect you to pay for it. So,
yeah. I wanted to read their interview to see exactly what they were saying, and not just the hearsay.
Right. Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Fun times. Love it.
So we'll have to do some more research for next episode.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm going to be doing about right here.
Okay, there we go. Spoilers. We're going to keep on the UFO then.
Yeah.
And then maybe hit up some other stuff after that, but we'll see what we're in the mood for.
I do really want to connect the dots, though.
Okay.
Like, I'm really into...
Follow the trail.
Yeah, follow the trail. So, McMinnville, or McMinnville has all those different things that happen. So now we have to find out if Mount Rainier does that. What is the correlation? What do they have in common? What do these two areas have in common?
Yeah, because it does seem, like you said, the paranormal is a lot broader than just the one thing, the one time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we'll keep looking into it, and please send us your guys' messages on what you want us to look into for this season.
Yes. Check out our Patreon. If you haven't already, follow us on all the fun things like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and our website.
Rate and review. That always helps other people find our podcast too. Tell your friends about us, and we'll see you guys. I think we're going to be trying to do bi-weekly this season.
Yes.
Just to give us a little bit of break, and then we're going to do probably, for now, bi-weekly on the Patreon. So if you need more, hit us up over there.
Yes. And in the meantime, may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.
Woo!